ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Workers' Party headquarters for the introduction of our next batch of candidates for GE 2011. Now, as you know, the Workers' Party campaign for this GE is Vote Workers' Party towards a First World Parliament. And to date, we are pleased that the slogan has caught the attention of Singaporeans. However, we have also noted that the PAP has responded to our slogan and attempted to confuse Singaporeans about our intentions. And they've also made misleading statements about the slogan in an attempt to cast doubts about it. Now, we, the Workers' Party, believe that Singaporean voters are intelligent and mature enough to see through the motives of the PPP. Now, the party has had intense discussions on slogan formulation and has thought through the concept of First World Parliament in detail. This was clearly articulated at our launch of the slogan, and I'd like to reiterate the key points for the benefit of everyone. First of all, a First World Parliament is one which is able to balance a strong executive with a check and balance mechanism formed by a credible and responsible opposition who is elected by the people with a mandate to represent them in Parliament and to protect their rights. Primarily, a First World Parliament does a few things. First of all, it ensures good governance. Elected opposition members in Parliament will scrutinize and appraise effectively the policies and administration of the government and ensure transparent implementation of legislation. Second, it keeps the government on its toes and holds accountable through the presence of a critical mass of elected opposition members. Third, it ensures against the failure of the ruling party. Alternative parties present in Parliament and representing residents would have the necessary experience to form an alternative government over time when the need arises in the future. Fourth, the First World Parliament represents a mandate from diverse interests in our society in lawmaking and policy debate. Parliament, in this case, is not just a national feedback unit. Last of all, it ensures that amendments to bills and the Constitution are not bulldozed through without proper debate and scrutiny. Parliament should not be a rubber stamp for government agenda. And in this light, I've read the recent comments by our Law Minister, Mr. Shanmugam, as well as Ms. Indrani Raja, about my statements concerning constitutional amendments. And I'd like to remind everybody of the wording of the oaths of allegiance taken by members of Parliament when they are sworn in. And if you read the wording, the last sentence says that the MPs promise to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. What does that mean? And does it mean anything at all? The media has reported very clearly that what I mentioned about constitutional amendments is that the opposition MPs would have a duty to oppose them if they were made for partisan advantage, therefore against the national interest. And in doing so, I believe that the opposition MPs would merely be living out the wordings of the oath. So these are the concrete benefits of having a First World Parliament. It benefits the people and the nation. Next, I'd like to move on to some comments by Prime Minister Lee, reported yesterday about Mr. Lau and myself in Parliament. Now, Prime Minister Lee appeared to dismiss the contributions of Mr. Lau and myself in Parliament, and we leave it to Singaporeans to judge what we have contributed over the years. In this respect, we agree that people can check what we have done through the parliamentary reports which are available publicly. However, we also believe that much more can be done if we have more members in the House, and we have faith in our current slate of candidates. If elected, we believe that Singaporeans can look forward to much more contributions from Workers' Party members of Parliament, contributions which can be even better than Mr. Lau's and myself. And this is in line with our vision of a First World Parliament. Now, Prime Minister mentioned two incidents in particular concerning this year's budget debate, and I'd like to have the opportunity to respond to those. This is in relation to, first of all, what PM Lee said about Mr. Lau's non-response to DPM TO about civil service salaries, and the second point is about GST. First of all, regarding DPM TO's statements about civil service pay, now this was actually made in the course of the Committee of Supply debate in budget this year. Now, most of you who know the parliamentary debates will know that under the existing parliamentary procedure, there would be no opportunity for Mr. Lau to respond immediately to DPM Teo's explanation and may not be allowed to respond unless he has actually filed a cut under the Prime Minister's office, which was the head under which DPM Teo was speaking. The second issue is that DPM Teo made reference to Mr. Lau's budget speech during the recent budget debate, but Mr. Lau's point was actually about political appointment holders, i.e. ministers, having a 30% pay rise in the supplementary estimate. What DPM Teo was explaining was about civil service pay scales. Now, we do not have an issue as such with civil service pay scales, but the issue is more with the ministerial salaries. Now, lastly, about GST. Prime Minister mentioned that he noted that in the 2006 manifesto of the Workers' Party, we had mentioned a proposal about differentiated GST, but that proposal is not present in this year's manifesto. Now, to explain, the Workers' Party has been studying this issue of GST for some time, and also since recent budget debate, we have also looked at some of the studies by the OECD as well as the UK and other countries, and we believe that this issue, there is some new data that needs to be studied in more detail. So at this point of time, when the manifesto was being issued, we felt that it was prudent for us to hold this issue in view, to look at the data a bit further before we actually revisit this issue of GST in our manifesto. So that's why the issue of GST is not present in this year's manifesto. However, we are pleased to note that the Prime Minister has spent time to compare our two manifestos, 2006 and 2011. Must have taken him some time.